It was a private moment with Grandpa that shifted my entire perspective. I never expected it to unfold the way it did, revealing truths that would linger long after. This was more than just a story, it was a revelation that would change everything for me. It was hard to believe that one evening could turn my life upside down. What began as a peaceful evening with my grandpa, just dinner and a movie, like so many times before, quickly transformed into something I never anticipated. I remember the time we were alone in his room. I found myself in a situation I couldn't quite recognize. It felt that way anymore. That's not right, yet, I found myself unable to let go. The events that followed continue to linger in my mind. I've kept this to myself for as long as I can remember, but tonight, I feel prepared to say, trust me. I know I won't be able to forget it. I'm excited to invite you to subscribe to my channel and show some love by liking my videos. Your clicks mean the world to me, they inspire me to keep sharing more meaningful stories with you. If you enjoy what I've shared, I'd love for you to spread the word and leave any questions you might have below. I believe that every interaction brings us closer together and helps us create a more connected community. I invite you to stay with us until the end. I am really grateful to you for the video. My grandpa was a constant presence in my life. He was the one person I could always rely on. They were the person who brought me a sense of safety. I can't help but think about all those weekends I spent at this house. It truly felt like a second home to me. I found it comforting in a way that wrapped around me like a warm blanket. I can still recall the smell of his old leather chair. It felt like the house was always filled. That evening began like any other, filled with warmth from my parents. I was out of town, staying with him for a few days. After dinner, I decided to watch a movie in the living room for a bit. Netflix and chill, as they say, became my routine. I had become accustomed to the routine of just the two of us unwinding together after a long day. I chose a lighthearted comedy. I find it helpful to have something to laugh about, it really keeps things easy and light for me. But as I watched the movie, I felt something shift in a way I can't quite put into words. Yet, the way he looked at me seemed to carry a different weight. I just couldn't shake off the feelings that overwhelmed me. At first, I brushed. Maybe I was just imagining things. After all, he was my grandpa, the one I trusted the most. As the movie continued, I found myself moving closer. My arm brushed against theirs. I watched as our ladder faded into quiet, lingering looks. It wasn't the kind of look I was familiar with. Thinking about it made my heart race. As the movie played, I found myself unable to understand why. I began to sense that something was off. Initially, I found it hard to put into words. But I could feel the air in the room, it felt thicker somehow. I could feel that something was changing. There was something. The soft hum of the TV filled the room, and I realized I wasn't ready for it. But it felt distant now. The room that had always been so familiar suddenly seemed foreign to me. I could feel the intensity of his gaze on me. It felt different. I felt his eyes lingered just a second too long, and his smile, which had always felt so warm to me. Suddenly, everything felt different. It felt as if he was catching a glimpse of something within me that I wasn't entirely ready to reveal. I attempted to brush it off, convincing myself that it was insignificant. As I shifted on the couch, I felt a change in the air around me. My arm brushed against theirs. I felt it, just a fleeting touch. It was just a fleeting moment. In that moment, it felt like time had come to a standstill. The touch of his skin against mine sent a jolt through my entire being. My heart began to race, and I couldn't ignore it. A lump formed in my throat. My breath caught in my chest, and before I could fully process what was happening, I instinctively pulled away. I found myself retreating, almost as if I were trying to escape the feeling that was closing in on me. But I found that I hadn't moved far enough to make the distance feel normal again. I looked over at him. To my surprise, he was already there. I can feel their gaze on me. My eyes felt soft. Yet, I sensed there was something deeper within them. There was something I hadn't noticed before. It was more than just warmth. The silence felt heavy, almost like it was asking a question all on its own. It felt like it was suspended in the space between us. It felt like I was. I find myself waiting, hoping for the right moment to say something that will shatter the silence. I found myself in the silence, trying to restore some sense of normalcy, yet, I found myself unable to utter a single word. I felt completely frozen. I felt my mind racing in circles, struggling to grasp what was happening. As I sit here, everything around me feels electric, the stillness heavy with anticipation. I was struggling to understand how to create it. It stopped. That uncertainty completely engulfed me. I felt the urge to distance myself even more, to break free from it all. I could feel a strange energy tugging at me, yet, I found myself completely paralyzed. I felt paralyzed, unable to make a single move. I found myself caught up in the confusion. I could feel the magnetic pull toward him, and it was undeniable. I felt like something was off, like I was missing a piece of the puzzle. But I found myself thinking about it all the same. I felt something undeniable. I have some thoughts on it. There was something I just couldn't grasp or put into words at that moment. A realization struck me. I found that there was no easy way. I just wanted to stop. The silence felt unbreakable to me. I could no longer pretend that everything was fine. I found myself in a situation where I had no idea what was going on, yet, I realized that I couldn't just turn a blind eye to it. The realization sent a chill down my spine, and I was more frightened than I wanted to acknowledge. I could feel the silence between us expanding. It felt heavier with each passing second. Just when I believed I could finally collect my thoughts, I felt him reach for my hand. My skin tingled as his touch brushed against me, gentle yet filled with intention. It felt like he was offering me the opportunity to step back, if I had the desire to. Yet, I chose not to. I wasn't able to. My hand stayed motionless in his. My heart raced, the sound echoing in my ears. I could feel the tension in there, thick and palpable. It felt like everything in the room had come together in that moment. In that one moment, I felt him lean in. I felt every fiber of my being urging me to stop, to push him away. I wanted to act like none of this was happening. Instead, I found myself completely frozen. My heart beats with a rhythm all its own. I felt my heart racing even faster when our lips met. It felt soft, tentative to me. It felt like he was just dipping his toes in, gauging the situation. I was unsure of what he was doing or how I would react. Yet, I sensed the tension that hung in the air between us. It felt like an electric charge, hanging in the air, undeniable and all-consuming. In the beginning, I felt it was slow, almost hesitant. I felt uncertain, as if neither of us was truly prepared for what lay ahead. But then, it happened almost without warning. The kiss deepened, and in that moment, everything transformed. I watched as it transformed from something simple into something far more profound. It felt as if it held a weight, a meaning and intention that neither of us had anticipated from the movie. I looked around the room, then glanced at the world outside. Everything just slipped away from me. It felt like time had come to a standstill. In that suspended moment, it felt like it was just the two of us, completely wrapped in our own intimate space. For a fleeting moment, I found myself unsure whether I wanted it to come to a close. I felt a rush of heat flood through me. I felt a wild combination of excitement and fear. I felt that tangled up sensation inside me, making my pulse race and my breath catch in my throat. They screamed at me that this was wrong. I think that should pull back. I realized I needed to stop before it went any further. Yet, my body, in its defiance, refused to follow my commands. I found myself at a loss for how to put an end to it all. Or if I even felt like it. I felt utterly lost, completely enveloped by the sensation of his touch. I could feel the heat of his skin against mine. The way I see everything. In that one fleeting moment of connection, everything suddenly seemed to align. Nothing else seemed to hold any significance for me. Not even the swirling doubts that attempted to rise in my mind. Yet, deep within me, amidst the chaos of feelings, I sensed that something had changed. I found myself struggling to define what it truly meant. I struggled to find the right words, but I couldn't ignore the fact that the change was undeniable. That moment terrified me as he pulled back. My breath felt warm and shallow against my skin. In the stillness of the room, I heard his voice come low and almost reverent, inviting me into go some, where it felt more private. I felt no need to. I find myself pondering it. I didn't think twice. I could feel my heart pounding in my chest. It felt like a storm was raging violently in my chest. And for the briefest moment, I heard a voice in my head. I found myself wondering if I should just stop, if I were to speak up and shatter the silence. Yet, the words felt lodged in my throat, too heavy to articulate. I followed him, the sound of my own heartbeat drowning out everything else. I walked toward his room. I felt my mind spinning in a blur of conflicting emotions. I felt as though we were both caught in some invisible force, guiding us along a path we couldn't see. I find myself unable to break free. With every step, I felt the weight grow, each one heavier than the last, the burden of. I was about to do something significant. I feel the pressure building as I pressed down. It felt like an unspoken truth weighing on me. But once I stepped over that line. One time, in that moment, I found myself in his room, right there with him. I realized there was no turning back. The safety I felt was undeniable. I felt the comfort of the living room slip away, leaving me in the silence of the dark, unfamiliar space. Now, it was only the two of us. Here I am, just me and the emptiness around me. I felt the need to shield us from what was unfolding. I stood still. For a moment, I felt almost frozen, trying to process the wild turn of events. He didn't have to say a word. We didn't need to say anything at that point. The air between us felt heavy with tension. It felt so real. It felt like a sharp sting, a sensation that lingered just beneath the surface. I felt the magnetic pull between us. Magnetic. It felt inevitable, like gravity pulling me closer to him. But his touch, though gentle, was as firm as his. My hands were drawn to them. And in that moment, in an instant, I felt every emotion I had. Excitement, fear, and confusion all blended together into one overwhelming sensation for me. Being near him was intoxicating. It felt dizzying. And when he kissed me again, I felt a rush of emotions flooding through me. As I stood there, I could feel the warmth radiating from his body. It felt like it was pressed against mine. I felt a heat radiating through me. They were leaving me. I'm breathless. In that moment, I found myself yearning for more. Everything felt so intense to me. I feel so alive. Even though I felt deep down that it was wrong. I struggled to understand it, yet I found myself not wanting it to end. The guilt and uncertainty lingered, fading into distant memories. Now it feels almost irrelevant since we shared that. A connection that was brief yet powerful. Intimacy. The rest of the world seemed to fade into the background for me. I found myself caught in the tension of wanting to pull away. I found myself completely unable to halt my actions. I found myself avoiding thoughts of what might happen next. Or the realization that I really shouldn't be doing this. I wanted to feel wanted, to linger in this moment for as long as possible, even though I felt it in my gut that it was. There was something about his room that I could never quite put into words. Everything felt so much bigger. I could feel the atmosphere pressing down around me, thick and heavy. The air felt thick, an intensity pressing in on me from all sides. I found myself struggling to understand what was going on around me. I found myself questioning whether I truly wanted to at all. It wasn't only about being physically close, though. I felt completely overwhelmed by that. That's it. There was a depth to it that I couldn't quite grasp. It was something that really pulled at my heartstrings. I felt an undeniable pull. I felt an invisible thread between us, pulling me closer. There was a force I found impossible to resist in those moments. I felt like I was truly being noticed. I found myself understanding things in a way I never had before. It wasn't merely that he desired me. He made me feel cherished in a way that completely consumed me. Completely. Even though I knew it was wrong, I was completely engulfed by the intensity of it all. I felt the tug of wanting to pull away, yet there was this deep yearning inside me to stay. It was a constant battle within, each feeling pulling me in different directions. A part of me was crying out for reason, for clarity. I needed to break free and step back from whatever was holding me down. This was just another piece of the puzzle. A figure I could hardly recognize pleaded with me to hold them close. I wanted to remain enveloped in that warmth. I found myself unable to put into words what was unfolding around me. Or why it seemed to feel that way. It feels so real. It feels so raw. With each touch, I felt a spark, and every lingering look seemed to hold a world of unspoken words. It felt like I had created my own language, one that I had spoken yet. It became so clear that it felt like we were connecting in ways that words could never express. The intensity of that connection enveloped me completely in every moment. I struggled to make sense of what was real and what was wrong. And yet I couldn't break away. The pull kept drawing me back, even when my mind screamed for me to stop. Then the following night arrived, just like the one before it, and the one after that, all in perfect rhythm. Every time I found myself back in my room echoes with the same cycle of emotions, the same actions playing out over and over. I felt as if I were caught in an unending loop. I only realized that with every encounter we had, we were growing closer. As I moved in closer. But I can feel myself slipping further away from the versions of myself that I used to be. I wanted to understand the people we had always been. The weight of what we were doing pressed heavily on my mind. I knew it was wrong, that it couldn't possibly end well. Yet, I found it impossible to ignore the powerful intensity of the emotions it stirred within me. I longed to be desired, to feel the warmth of being wanted. I felt a blend of being cherished and embraced. I felt an undeniable guilt and confusion wash over me. I found it impossible to separate them. I intertwined with them, until they merged into a single, overwhelming force that I felt completely trapped by. I watched as the days turned into nights. With every passing moment, I could feel its weight increasing. It felt like the world around me was pressing down on me. It reminded me of the mistake I was making. I couldn't escape it. It was always there, right behind me. Everywhere I traveled. The mornings haunted me, lingering like a shadow in the corner of my mind. I would watch as the sunlight crept through the windows. But rather than providing solace, the cold bit at my skin, harsh and unyielding. The pot light shines brightly. I faced the shame head-on, refusing to hide from the truth. I really put in the effort to hide the warmth deep inside me. In my past, I found myself intertwined with the first light of dawn. I felt a chill wash over me. It felt like it seeped into my very bones as I looked at him throughout the day. It just felt different. He felt like a stranger to me now. That smile of his, once so familiar to me, it felt so comforting. It felt like a reminder of the secret we shared, a secret I couldn't escape from. It had always lingered in the space between us, even when I look at the world. Life continued to flow around me. I wasn't sure if it felt the same to me, yet, I could feel that something between us had undeniably shifted. I felt more than just guilt. There was a depth to it that I couldn't quite grasp. It feels more complex. It was something that lingered with me. Every time I thought about it, it was all around us. I found myself hesitating, trying to convince myself to just walk away. Memories flooded my mind, leaving me feeling overwhelmed. Of my touch, I could feel the warmth of his presence enveloping me. I found myself unable to shake them off. I felt like I was caught in the midst of a struggle. I find myself caught between two versions of who I am. I was the one who knew this was wrong. I was the one who couldn't seem to resist the pull. I promised myself that I would put an end to it. I made a promise to myself. I would just turn and leave. As night descended, once more, I felt an irresistible pull towards him. Every night I spent in his room felt like I was stepping into something completely different, my world. In a world where nothing mattered except for us. The noise of the outside world faded into nothingness around me, as the door clicked shut behind me. And that feels so familiar. A knot twisted in my stomach. I was aware. I can't believe it's there. I realized it was a mistake, and yet I found myself unable to do it. Leaving his presence felt like stepping away from a powerful force. I felt an irresistible pull, as if something was drawing me closer. No matter how loud the voice in my head screamed for me to walk away, I found that the hardest part was still ahead of me. I felt an overwhelming confusion. I felt a whirlwind of emotions inside me. It felt like a storm, and I found myself unable to make sense of it all. Was it desire? Was it guilt? Was it fear, or was it everything all at once? As I found myself tangled together with my thoughts, I began to question everything. All there is to know about me. How had I gotten here? I allowed it to reach this point. Why was I unable to stop? And even more concerning, why did it trouble me so much? Why, deep down, do I feel this way? I thought about stopping. It seemed to me that I was navigating two entirely different existences. I pretended that everything was just fine. And another moment where I found myself secretly consumed by this. It felt like an impossible and dangerous connection. It took everything out of me, but each night, I felt the pull, as if it were a battle within me. This would be the last time, and yet every time I found myself back in his room, I felt trapped. I found myself caught in a cycle that felt utterly impossible. I needed to shatter the understanding. It hit me suddenly. I felt everything around me shatter, the sound of chaos enveloping my senses. It crashed over me like a tidal wave. I found myself ensnared in this situation. My own emotions had me cornered. My desires. That was the toughest thing for me to swallow. I had to swallow the most painful truth of all. I found myself unsure about whether I truly wanted it to end. I find myself reflecting on the past. I'm still haunted by the memories of those nights. They have lingered in my thoughts, leaving a mark that has shaped the person I am today. I've pored over countless hours, trying to make sense of it all. I found myself wondering what went wrong, lost in my thoughts and questioning everything. Each decision I make, I feel every emotion. Each moment felt significant. It was love, a desperate need for connection, or was it something completely different back then? I still can't wrap my head around it. I find myself without all the answers. Perhaps I will never find out. What I do know, however, those nights changed me in ways I never saw coming. I was forced to confront parts of myself I had no idea it was out there. I wouldn't say I discovered peace. Reflecting on what happened, I really don't believe I ever will, yet I've come to accept it. It has woven itself into the fabric of my narrative. An unforgettable chapter that I can't erase. I often find myself wishing I could just forget it. Even though it hurts, I find myself reflecting on the past. I find it serves as a reminder of just how fragile I am as a human being. It's astonishing how easily I can be swept away through movements we can't completely grasp. I get it. It's so difficult to break free from them. Once they've taken the step to open up to me about this, I realize it hasn't been easy for them. I've hesitated to take this step for quite a while now. But I've come to understand. Sometimes, I find that sharing my experiences can be quite powerful. Especially the difficult ones have been a crucial step in my journey toward healing. I find myself hoping that by sharing my thoughts on it, I may not just start to. Yet, I find myself seeking a bit of comfort or perhaps a deeper understanding. To anyone out there who finds themselves grappling with their own inner struggles, my life feels full. I experience twists and turns. Sometimes it feels chaotic, overwhelming, or downright inexplicable, even with all the challenges I face. These are the very experiences that shape me. I experienced both joy and pain. Those experiences ultimately shape me into who I am. If there's a meant to be, then it's mine, the lesson I've learned through it all. I realize that I can't let go of my past. Keep us trapped. I won't let the mistakes, the heartbreaks, or the tragedies define me. Let us be defined for all time. Rather, I know I must find the strength to move forward. Even when it feels like I'm carrying the weight of everything. It feels like it's more than I can handle. It's always a challenge. But the only way out is through. I find that life has a strange way of thrusting me into situations I never could have anticipated. I have found myself in moments so profound, it left me questioning everything. I thought I knew a moment that left a mark on me. It changed me in ways I couldn't have imagined. I'm eager to hear what you think and how you feel about this. If I were in your shoes, what would I have? I took care of it. How would you have approached the situation? I invite you to share. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story strikes a chord with you in any way, I would really appreciate it if you could give it a like. And I shared it with someone who might also appreciate it. I can connect with what I've expressed, and please, I ask you. If you'd like, don't forget to subscribe. I want to listen. I find myself drawn to stories that explore the intricate layers of life and love. As I navigate through the challenges, I find myself confronted with tough decisions at every turn. Your support truly means the world to me, more than I can ever put into words. I'm really looking forward to sharing this journey with you.